What's up, everybody? It is 4 in the morning over in my neck of the woods. It is also my birthday, for whatever that's worth. So this video is going to be pretty random, just because I just wanted to see if everybody, or whoever watches, if you guys are sticking to your New Year's resolutions and how's that all going. Me, I'm just doing okay with the resolutions. So I'm trying to give up fast food. And so since the new year, I've had fast food like 3 times, which for me is really good. Because typically I would have it probably like 3 or 4 times a day. Sorry, not a day, a week. So, if we're going by numbers, I'm doing pretty good. Oh, excuse me. I am out for my walk though, so that is definitely good. Woo. My hands are cold. In terms of the walking and stuff, let's see. So far out of the week, I've probably missed, I want to say, anywhere between 4 to 5 days. 4 for sure. What you call it? There were just a couple of days where I would wake up and I would just, because typically what I would do is I wake up at 3:30 and just kind of like sit and maybe like watch TV or something, very low effort, just to stay awake, and then go for my walk at like 4, kind of like how I'm doing today. Oh, excuse me. Oh, but there was 4 days where I woke up and I sat down, I watched TV, and next thing you know, I wake up and it's like 5:45. So that just tells me that my body hasn't completely gotten used to the waking up that early. And then also there's a couple days where I went to bed, which would be considerably late for me. Oh, sorry guys, I blanked out there. Have you guys ever, I don't know, maybe it's just me, have you ever had a thought that just like totally hijacked. So like you could be thinking of something, and then I don't know, let's just say, for some weird example, you're thinking about something that involves a train, and then all of a sudden, because you thought of a train, no pun intended, your train of thought got derailed, and then you just start thinking about something completely different. That just happened to me right now. I'm so sorry. It is totally spaced out and was silent. Oh, brother. Your unc's getting old. I hear a lot of people, older people especially, primarily my grandfather, a lot of people swear up and down on doing old school puzzles, such as crosswords, Sudoku, those types of things. And I mean, obviously I'm not a fossil yet, but it probably would be in my best interest to start doing something to kind of preserve my brain, what's left of it. Thankfully, I'm not like your uncle's not a burnout. I never did drugs. I've never even drank, believe it or not. Those aren't things I ever really desired to do, especially drinking, because I had seen it. Just a little bit of lore about your uncle. Your uncle grew up in church for like most of my life, and the church had a recovery program for, whatever. They didn't care. They were just like, if you got an addiction, check it out. And so I would see and hear stories of these dudes. It was primarily men. Like they kind of kept the men and the women separated, just for the recovery program. And so I would hear about these dudes just completely just destroy their lives. Crash a car, their wife leaves them, freaking all that kinds of stuff. Or they gravely injured somebody. And so, seeing these guys just completely just destroy everything that they worked for essentially nothing, was kind of enough for me to be like, I'm never messing with that stuff. I'm good. But yeah, I just wanted to check in, see how y'all doing, see if you guys are sticking true to your resolutions, and like I said in that video, like it's okay if you like you just heard me. I've had fast food already. There's been a couple days where I didn't go for a walk. The worst thing you can do to yourself is feel like you can't, like, basically don't let the fact that you didn't do it one day derail and undo whatever progress you've made. Because then if you do that, then you're never going to change. And like I said, depending on how drastic the change is, like for me with the waking up early and the fast food, like those are bad habits. Well, for me, I categorize them as bad habits. And so That's going to take a while. You're not just going to wake up on January 1st and all of a sudden it's like, yep, I have zero desire to eat out or stay in bed and blah, blah, blah. You have to like build it up. You have to work it. You almost need to like, what's the word? Kind of like you want to ride a wave, basically. Think of it that way. That's why I encourage so many people to start in advance. Like start like the second, what you call it? Like start like 7 days before New Year's actually rolls around. So that when you see everybody else doing it come January, you're more motivated to keep going. The hardest part will come in like 2 weeks. Once we start to approach January 31st, 30th, 29th, that's going to be the hardest part because the opposite's going to happen. You're going to see a ton of people start to fall off, and it's going to be tempting because I've noticed that in today's society, like nobody wants to take any kind of accountability for themselves for anything. So something that was self-imposed, such as a resolution, people for sure aren't going to want to be held accountable for that. So you're going to see a lot of people just basically make excuses for themselves, throw in the towel, and then obviously I'm not saying that you should like judge them or whatever, get on their stuff, but oh no, I think somebody broke into this car right here. Well, that's no good. There's like glass on the floor and stuff. Anywho. Like I said, your uncle lives in not the greatest neighborhood. Anywho. So I'm not going around saying like, oh, you should judge them or whatever, or just, get on there. I mean, if you're like really good friends with them, you probably could like, talk about it with them a little more in depth. But for the most part, that's probably not going to be the case. Like say your coworkers or whatever. Because like my manager, like we've been working together for like 12 years. So like our dynamic is like, I don't want to call it unprofessional, but like by today's standards, it probably is unprofessional. But like he's super old school, like even more so than your uncle. He's old school. He's two olds. But basically he has no problem with confrontation of any kind. Verbal, physical, maybe even emotional, I don't know. But yeah, like, because like I said, I had fast food a couple of times thus far. And so I'm sitting there with my big old, Mountain Dew Zero from Taco Bell or whatever. And he's just like, dude, seriously? And I'm just like, yeah, I know, blah, blah, blah. Like, I made up my, well, I mean, I don't typically make up excuses. And I don't think I did. I typically just, I just own it. I'm like, yep, Taco Bell. But then, so he confronts me about it, and I'm just like, yep, I kind of shrug my shoulders. But then I never finished that soda, and so I put it in the break room refrigerator. And so I finished it the next day. So he's like, dude, again? I'm like, hey. That time I did defend myself, or make well, it wasn't the truth, but it's still funny. I'm just like, whoa. This was yesterday, so don't settle down. And he's just like, oh, okay. So yeah. back to back like that. That's pretty wild. Anyway, so the other thing I want to talk about is, I mean, I think it needs its own video. So think of this as kind of like a preview. My wife's family, and like, I don't mean to sound like a stereotypical husband, just, you know, crying about the in-laws. Because, I mean, like on my side of the family, most of my family's like, okay. Oh, excuse me. Like, my mom's probably not the best. Like, if you were to hold a gun to my head and you know, like, which family member needs the most work and is the most difficult to be around, I'd be like, oh, my mom, 100%, zero hesitation. It's my mom. Now, I love my mom, you know, and like I'm always telling myself and telling others, she, I'm sure she did her best, but yeah, not the greatest. And I'm really not one of those, you know, like you see a lot of like older men who are just kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you know, they're not like that successful, or they're not like, I'm really trying not to throw shade, but it's like, they're like, you know, they're just like, if you were to put it on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the most desirable men to women, and 1 being undesirable. Like, these dudes are like a bunch of 4s and 5s running around, right? They're not the worst. Oh, come on. But what I was gonna say is, a lot of dudes, they blame their parents. You know, my mom, you know, this, that, or whatever. I mean, half of those dudes probably still live with their mom. So again, not judging or whatever. It's like, I don't know what their circumstances are. Maybe they have to. I know I did a video about some financial like advice, and I literally said, like, if your parents will have you, freaking still live with your parents. But that was more targeted towards like young adults. Like, if you're, I mean, this is just my opinion, but like, if you're in your 30s and you still live at home, it might be time to start budgeting and making some changes so that you can afford your own spot somewhere else. So blah, 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 blah. I say all that to say this. My wife's family is like, come on. They are just, look, I'm just going to call it what it is. They're nuts. They're a good chunk of them are just insane. They do all kinds of like illegal stuff I'm not going to get into. But yeah, my wife's dad, he so that's just, here's what he's done pretty much the last month of the year. Okay, before the New Year's arrived. He's an emotional guy. That's one thing about him, like, I would argue doesn't help him. Because, like, I'm the kind of person that's like, emotions are just like surface level, if that makes any sense. So, like, for example, like, I don't know, let's just say like my 1-year-old hits me really hard with something, a toy, right in the head, right in between the eyes. Like in that initial moment, I'm like, I'm mad, right? It hurt, didn't see it coming, blah, blah, blah. So my knee-jerk, surface level reaction and feeling is anger. But instead of acting on that momentary feeling, I hold my tongue. I still make a face, I'm sure. That's one thing I don't think it's incredibly hard for you to control your facial expressions when it comes to those kinds of things. But I hold my tongue. I don't get mad. Well, I mean, I am mad, but I give myself a couple seconds. Like, it was an accident, whatever. I basically do not act. I do not act on that feeling. So anywho, sorry for the silence. I heard some rummaging. I wanted to be on guard in case it was a homeless person or something. Anyway, so it's like you can't really act on that knee-jerk emotion or feeling. You have to give it a second, and in some cases maybe even a couple minutes. That's how my wife is. She'll get mad, she'll stop talking, and then several minutes later, maybe even depending on the severity of the situation, maybe the very next day, that's when she'll actually confront me and talk about what happened, because she is trying not to get mad. Now, one of the pros of my wife's family being primarily insane is that she's like me. She doesn't want to be like her parents. She wants to be her own person. And so, because she sees everybody being crazy, she kind of like has made it a point for herself not to be crazy. So I'm blessed in that regard. She doesn't like flip out per se. I mean, she has, but I don't know, we'll say like less than 20 episodes over the course of 10 years. I'd say that's a pretty good spread. But going back to her dad, so this poor fella, he lost his mom, probably like 3 or 4 years now. But, it was her birthday. And like my wife's family, they're also ghetto. Honestly, no, they're ghetto. They're ghetto. And just, if you're listening, the hierarchy of the hood is level 1 is hood, level 2 is ghetto, and level 3 is ratchet. Nobody wants to deal with level 3, even amongst themselves. Do not be a ratchet. Do not be a ratchet. Don't be ratchet. Clean it up. Get your crap together. No, it's not a part of your culture. I don't have time to get into it, but seriously, stop it. Anyway. So this dude, he goes to the cemetery, gets drunk at the cemetery, crying over his mom, which, the first year, I get it. Like, the first year is the hardest year. My best friend lost his mom in 2025. And he's never really been the same thus far, but, like, when I lost my grandma, who I cared for a lot, like, I was sad for about a year. You know, maybe a little more or less. I'm not entirely sure, but on average, it's probably a year. But you can't live in that pain. You can't live in a weird way. You're kind of like living in the past. It's like, yes, I get it. You wish you was, they wish that whoever you lost was still with you, and you're just sitting there and reminiscing. I understand all of those things, and those things aren't inherently bad, but when you allow those things to consume you to the point where you're not even who you are anymore, that's when it becomes a problem. I gotta wrap this up soon. So, just a side note, I'm really looking forward to the day where I can walk and talk and not sound like I ran a country mile. What's a country mile? I have no idea. But I'm assuming it's longer and harder than a normal mile. Anyway. So this dude gets drunk at the cemetery. And cemeteries, or at least the one that he was at, they closed early. It was a weekday. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it closed at like 7 p.m. or something like that. Now, this might be at the fault of the groundskeeper, but the cemetery locks up, closes up shop, and this dude's still in there somewhere on the grounds. I don't know where, but he's still out there, drunk. So what's this guy do? He starts driving around drunk in the cemetery with his phone out, recording everything, yelling at the top of his lungs for help. Like that meme of that dude in the parking lot who just screams help as loud as he can, right? He starts calling everybody in his family, and of course, sooner or later, he calls my wife. My wife is like the most sane and put together of all of them. So of course, everybody calls her sooner or later, but she's also kind of like everyone's mom. Like, she doesn't hesitate to get on everyone's crap, right? So that's why she's not the first person to call, but she will be called at some point. So, hold on, I gotta check something real quick. Okay. I just want to make sure we're still recording. Because if you run out of space, it'll just cut off your recording. And you'll never know. So she calls him. And he's just like, yeah, I'm drunk. I don't know if he says he's drunk, but sadly, that's a common question that comes up when he does call. Like, are you drunk? Oh yeah. Anyway, so my wife calls the cemetery, goes on the website, does a bunch of sleuthing, finally gets the number for the groundskeeper, gets a hold of that dude, and proceeds to tell him there's a drunk dude. There's a drunk dude driving around in the cemetery. You probably want to go try to. I don't know if she said he was drunk or not. But you probably want to let him out of the cemetery. So, okay, they let him out of the cemetery. And then, actually, now that I think about it, I don't know if that incident definitely took place in December, but the other incident, I think, took place in the new year. That was the Seahawks-Niner game. I got a video about that where I laugh hysterically, as I can't stand Niner fans. they are obnoxious to me. Anywho, shameless plug aside, he watches the game at a bar, and freaking he ends up like getting into like several different fights. Well, sorry, let me rephrase that. An altercation is like a verbal conflict, right? Like a verbal fight, if you will, but that never really like, you know, resulted in people throwing hands. So he got into several conflicts, incidences, altercations, and one of them did turn violent because he's a Niner fan. Oh, shocker, I know. And it's just like, dude, like, you know, those two incidences were, you know, a weeks apart. It's like, come on, dude, get your crap together. It just, yeah, I don't know what we're going to do about that guy. But, oh, I don't know if you can hear, but the police sirens are already blaring at 4:30 in the morning. Just in case anybody wasn't sure that I lived in an unsavory location. Anywho. That's all I got for you guys today. Let me know if you guys are keeping up with your resolutions. And tell me what they are. I want to know. Oh, interesting. Anyway, that's all your unc's got for you today.